you know, that I was growing up with, I saw it like him in a manger. And then I saw his mother, she had a veil on. So I said, wow, you know, she has a veil. So then I would see Muslim women, I said, they have a veil. So I started to connect things, things like that. So it was just something that was given me, just you know, curiosity. Why is this and why is that? And me trying to put the pieces together, even though I didn't have the pieces.
Right.
You know, I was trying to put them together. I didn't have the full puzzle, but I was getting pieces, you know, every now and then I put them together.
And now you made the move to the NBA. Was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar a Muslim at that time, or were you aware of him?
Yes, it was my my second year. I came from Cincinnati, like I said, the first team that I was with. I joined the Milwaukee Bucks. Then Kareem came on the team, and he was Lou Alcindor at the time, but he was Muslim. And one day I was at practice, which you know I said earlier, you know, I was at practice. And he came up to me, I had a cross on, and Kareem came up and said, what's that around your neck? And I said, what? He said, that cross. I looked down, I realized I couldn't explain what I had. So I was wearing something as a habit, as a custom, but I couldn't explain it. So I decided that I would do anything, or I would make an attempt to find out why I had that, what that cross meant. So the next day I went to the library and I got a bunch of books. I got a Quran, I got a Torah, I got a Bhagavad Gita, and you know, a Bible. And I said, I'm going to make.
What's the Bhagavad Gita?
A Bhagavad Gita, it's like a Hindu or Buddhist. I think it's a Hindu scripture. You know, in India, I think it's Hindu. So I got that. And
so you were indiscriminate in searching for the truth.
Oh yeah, because I took it as a scientific method. What's the scientific method? You gather the information, you take it to the laboratory, you dissect it, you make a hypothesis on what you have dissected, but most importantly, what you find, you have to be objective. So that was my search, and that's the way I did it.
MashaAllah, but it's a very nice way to go about it, because, you know, like it says, there are billions of Muslims in the world, and there are people who come to Islam for different reasons, to help them with this, help them to get away from that. And some people, like your lifestyle at that time, a lot of people don't really think much about religion at that time. They're just busy enjoying themselves and living the high life. So it's just important for the viewers to recognize that some people, their hearts are guiding them towards Islam and not trying to save them from some ills which they're involved in.
Yes, Umar, but I found that the most important thing with what you just said is a person's sincerity. And if a person is sincere, if a person is sincere, they will find it.
Abdulaziz, you said Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he asked you some questions about this cross you were wearing and inspired you to try to start and study about Islam. Now, where did that where did that path take you?
Oh, that path took me, you know, after the scientific method that I did. After I got there, then I realized I had to make a decision on what I had just studied, and it took me about a year to come to a determination. So I was playing. I left Milwaukee. I went to the Houston Rockets, and it just hit me one day. I said, you know, I remember the Quran, reading it about the prophets, the succession of the prophets, and then it just hit me one day. I said, that's for me. So then I went to the general manager, Ray Patterson. I said, I'm switching my name from Don Smith to Zaid Abdulaziz.
What was his reaction to that?
His reaction said, well, you sure you want to do that? I said, of course I want to do that. He said, okay. If it's okay, you know, with the Rockets, it's okay with me. And he said, I'll speak to the president, and then you can switch your name. And the next day there was a big article in the Houston Chronicle. You know, Don Smith no longer, Zaid Abdulaziz.
What about your teammates? What did they think about that?
They got kind of confused, and they were confused about it. My mother and father, I didn't tell them, something I should have spoke to them about, but they thought, my mom thought it was just a phase I was going through and I'll snap out of it. And other people's friends, they couldn't understand it.
And at that time, you'd be traveling around to different cities and on the road. And what about the fans? What was their reaction to that?
Well, the fans, they remembered me as Don Smith. Now there's this new guy, and there's Zaid Abdulaziz. Who in the world is that? So there was like a split between Don Smith, who he was, and now this new guy, Zaid Abdulaziz. So it kind of confused the fans, because I did it in the beginning of the the season, so they didn't know. A lot of people never knew what happened to Don Smith.
Let me ask you this question, because a lot of Muslims outside of America, they don't understand why when Americans become Muslims, they so quickly change their name.
It's because, looking back, because the truth hit me so hard at the time that I said, well, I got to do this. And there's an ayat in the Quran that says, come into the faith wholeheartedly. I mean, don't half-step. When you get it, jump in there. So that's what I did. I kind of jumped in there. Looking back, some scholars say, always keep your last name of your father.
Right.
So, but I was so elated to be able to be accepted or want to be accepted. I decided to Zaid Abdulaziz. Some people say, why didn't you call yourself Zaid Smith and keeping the family last name? And that's debatable.
Right, right. And how did you choose the name Zaid Abdulaziz?
Well, I used to do things explosively, as a basketball player. I used to snag a rebound, and I didn't do it to brag or anything, but I grab it and bring it down. Or I block a shot, or I take a jump shot from 20 feet. When we need, like a crucial, and I hit it. So the announcer of the time, his name was Eddie Doucette. He was with the Milwaukee Bucks, so he used to call me Dynamite. That was my nickname. So everybody used to call me Dynamite, Dynamite, Dynamite. So I realized that I had this explosiveness. So so Aziz meaning mighty, and Abdul meaning servant. So I'm the servant of the mighty God. So I did it like that. I said, well, Abdul Aziz, that kind of fits me. And whereas somebody else, if they were, Abdul Shakur or Abdul, according to your personality, people might pick a name according to their personality. Namely, me being a servant of the mighty God, a person that's less, a person, Abdul Hakim, the wise, or something like that,
right.
The wise one.
So you put some thought into choosing a name.
Oh, yes, I did.
Yes. And now in the NBA, how many other Muslim players were there at that time?
There was one person. His name was Walt Hazzard. He played for UCLA. His name was Mahdi Abdul Rahman. And then we had Kareem. And then there weren't very few. There weren't many at all.
And did you guys communicate or ever meet each other? Or?
Well, I played with Kareem, but I'm kind of an eccentric guy, and he's kind of eccentric. So when you get an eccentric, sometimes we don't meet. But I like to read. He likes to read. So we were never that close. So we're friends. We're distant friends. Now,
Abdulaziz, in the NBA, how long were you actually playing in the NBA as a Muslim?
I would say half of my career. I took Shahada in 1974, a long time ago, and I retired in 1979. So, and I started in 1969. So, right in the middle of my career, I became a Muslim.
And the different teams you played with, were they all quite accepting of the fact that you were a Muslim?
Well, there was a kind of back then, to be honest with you. If you became Muslim, then you hated white people, and that I used to get because there was other other organizations out there, and the way they spun it at that time, but that was never.
So, but because of that thinking, what were the kind of things people would ask you about being a Muslim?
Well, it wasn't so much ask me; it's the body language of people. If you saw, if you saw a white person, they might smirk at you, thinking that you hated them, which in reality I never did. Things like that, or you were un-American or something like that.
And then in your time in the NBA as a Muslim, did you see any increase in the number of people becoming Muslim, or people interested in asking you about Islam?
Not really. People, I would say, maybe they felt that I would snap out of it.